is my discography for the work that I have with APMMusic, which is a production music library based in California. And they provide great production music for movies, television, and films, and much more. And they provide much more than just production music. So here they have a good search algorithm. You can search my name, and it will show the tracks that I have in the album in gray. And I have them separated by album. So Epic Fury is kind of hybrid sound effect oriented with orchestral combinations of tracks that are kind of epic, obviously through the name title. And I did all the work here, and it's got quite a bit of use in the TV world. Another collection is called Terminal Keys. That's really great piano works, light orchestral backing, very emotional stuff, and very organic from like my classical origins. Really enjoyed making this work. So I've done all of the pieces in that collection. So Thunder Drones is a collection of sound effects that I really enjoyed making because it got me an opportunity to work a lot with sound design, which is one of my favorite aspects of music. So I did all of the work in Thunder Drones. They're just short little works meant for like bumpers and many more kinds of short transitions in film. Very interesting stuff. Another work I did is called Monster Drone Builders, which is kind of a build on the Thunder Drones, just a longer, bigger version. And so each of those tracks is around 1 to 2 minutes, and they're just these huge sound design oriented works with some instrument blending, but mainly it's about the sound design and kind of horror and sound effects and everything, and the kitchen sink. And it was such a important release that we went ahead and did 2 of them. So we'll get to that in a second. So we have about 56 tracks in that, and I did all of them. There's also an off and on button for these where you can have the percussive backing or just the sound effect backing, and then there's additionally these additional bonus stems. Epic Fury was one of the first epic works I worked on because the publisher found out I was good at doing epic style music. So I enjoyed doing that, and I did quite a bit of that. Now this was just a beginner's course in my epic work, but it actually got quite a bit of uses. Now, Fearless Champions was when I was really hitting my stride towards the end of my time in California, maybe towards the beginning of my time in Florida. So it's a very important release, and the idea was based on making music around the Coliseum. And it just struck me like how significant and how deep and how incredible that music is. And it's the stuff that's resonated throughout time, and it's meant something to people in so many ways, through films especially. So I said I have to do a Coliseum style work, and especially because I grew up with my grandfather who listened to all of these style works of the Roman era and such, where it was a huge influence in my childhood to create music like this. It was kind of secretly embedding the tones into my mind over time. And they were so good, I remembered them, and I was able to play them and perform them, without actually having to know what I was copying or know if I was copying. And of course, by the time I got through, it became my own. And that's how powerful the themes of the Coliseum style works are. So I'm very proud to be able to have done this particular release. And then also there's some sound design elements to kind of heavily emphasize parts of the orchestra, because it is, of course, mainly an orchestral work. And it also has to fit the TV format. So it's got, that format of, let's say, 1 to 2 to 3 minute mark. And then it has a little silence parts and things like that, little stops, so that you can, catch up with, your edits. So they have different versions here. And Fearless Champions, I did all of these compositions in this release. And also, I created the concept, which was originally called Coliseum. And then this was my first release ever with the Sonoton music library, and it was through their Sonoton Vanguard, which is very nice. The Bionic Drama was one of the pieces I did back in California, and Soul of the System was really a breakthrough for me. I really had a magical experience being able to make that kind of music. The rest of these are very heavy sound design oriented, very heavy percussion, meant for crazy wild upheaval and technological stuff and just crazy mayhem, let's say. Chaos factor, because of course we have Bionic with the drama in it. And they have little edit versions in some of these as well. I was able to do all the works in that release. Critical Assault was another one where I had really reached my stride with trailer music, and so I was able to create like really powerful, orchestral with percussive with sound design creations that are used in trailers and things like that. And I did, let's see, 1, 2, 3 works in this release. Allies, The Magnificent Army, and Geopolitical Dramas. Fight to Victory, it was the part 2 for Colosseum. And I did all of the works in here. Also on these Sonoton releases, there are additional composers, I have to mention that. And one of them is actually the owner of Sonoton, Gregor Narholtz. How awesome is that? So then we also have Samuel McCrown, who did some co-writing on these as well. Add a little bit of ending finesse to the works. And these all have orchestral plus dub plus mock-up plus a little bit of synthesizer. They were recorded with a live orchestra to dub the material in Germany. So it's a very, very important release. Resurgent, looks like I did all the works on this one. And this was another cool release, but it's kind of a potpourri of, let's say, action music. And probably my favorite one in here is called Present Day, but it's more of a peaceful, natural sounding work, but it's one of the coolest works I ever did, I think. Present Day. And it's this really just amazing, very subtle Latin influence. And then we have some additional like tribal works and some very heavy sound design works in here as well, worth checking out. Feel Good Quickies was actually one of my most popular ever production music pieces, especially thanks to the awesome music editors at Chopped, the television show, who have used these cues hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And I have to thank my publisher for coming up with the idea to do these, but also I really enjoyed making this style of music, which has sort of a freestyle, bluegrass, very lighthearted, very friendly vibe to it, good vibe, and it's totally the polar opposite of kind of where I was coming from with this serious classical music and serious heavy rock music and serious techno music. And this is kind of the way into the other spectrum, but it was still really fun to blend all these crazy sounds together to make these cute little light sounds that were actually very popular. I have to do more of these as soon as possible. And as you can see, I did about 62 of these. They're very short pieces, and they're made for just quick transitional stuff, but they really got quite a bit of usage, so cool. And we have Monster Percussion. All right, so Monster Percussion is just what it sounds like. It's a bunch of very huge percussion going on here. And it was fun to make this as well because I got to go crazy with drums and percussion and taiko drums and things like that. Now we have Monster Drone Builders 2. And this has all my works as well. So on this one, this was just an extension of Monster Drone Builders, and we have very dense sound design going on with a kind of a slow build to it, a entropy to the work that creates this cacophony eventually. So that's cool. A lot of sound design work in here was very original blendings of textures, worth checking out, especially during Halloween or if you want to go crazy with weird Christmas music. Electronic Supremacy. Now, man, did I have a good time making this. And one of the first tracks that I made on this was, I think, Dealer in the Sky. And it was like this notion of, who's dealing all these emotions and these people? Is it coming from the sky? It was a crazy thought back in the day. But now I'm starting to really wonder, what the heck? What was I on to? But another great one in this release is called Achieve. Another super popular one was called Born to Soar. It got some radio play, and that was a happy day, let me tell you that much. So there's a lot of cool like electronic, kind of 90s style electronic music. It didn't have that heavy, distortion factor yet. It was still just kind of innocent, but big beat, stuff like that. And so I did all the works in this one. And actually, I think I came up with the idea to do this. I just wanted to make songs when I first went to California. I didn't know anything about production music, so my mind was always on doing stuff like this and eventually making my way over to working with people like Seal and stuff like that. But I just ended up just getting heavily involved in production music just because there's just so much work, and it's a great opportunity to do a lot of different kinds of compositions, which is what I really love to do, to really explore music like crazy and hopefully come up with some interesting findings. So Epic Fury 2 is just an extension of the Epic Fury lineup. Let me see, there was a really popular piece in here, which was Rage Sphere. Has kind of a tribal, fuzzy build to it. And then we got lots of uses in these. Epic Fury got a lot of usage because it's kind of really wild epic music, but it's not like movie trailer epic music. It's more like just spastic and bombastic and has a lot of sonic collisions. And then we got to have Epic Fury 3, which some of these I think were like heavy percussive tracks, and then some of them were very emotional piano works. Now we're getting to my favorite piano work that I was able to achieve in this one. It was called Born Elite. And the original title for this was Trading Earth for a Buck. And I don't want to get political, but man, was I blown away when I was able to do this piece, because all the world came together. And it was the first piece I was like, oh my God, I'm really getting the hang of this. And I was able to blend some of what they wanted from the commercial sector with my own drive, my own inner ambitions. So I'm very proud of Born Elite, and I'm very happy that it got some use as well. Power and Pride, just like the logo looks like here, was a very patriotic style release. I would say my favorite track in this one was like A Nation Within, and then we have Elated Reality. There's some very interesting things in this going on, and it's some amazing string work, amazing brass work. I was just really getting the flow of all of this stuff, and some marching style drumming as well. I did all the tracks in this one, as you can see by the gray. Then we have Transmorphers. This was my introduction to the publishing production music world. And one of the first pieces I handed over was Bionic Messenger, which is this really wild electronic work, very original sounding. You won't hear anything else like it anywhere. And you still won't to this day. And it kind of held its own, and it stood the test of time. Bionic Messenger, worth checking out. There's some additional ones in here that got a lot of usages. So these ones in gray are mine. And Carnage. So this was cool. This was another selection of tracks that I did for Sonoton. We have Down the Drain, which was a heavy, crazy, wild, epic style, trailer style piece with some very original sound design and blends of sounds. Nice Try Bad Guy. Mission to Fail is a very cool piece. It leans more towards orchestral music than it does, let's say, electronic epic. And I was very proud of this because of towards the end, it just really blew open with that choir. Oh my God, it's just an incredible piece. And Damocles was like the opening to, let's say, the Colosseum concept. So you have a lot of crazy heavy brass, cool track with a very menacing rhythm, like, just something's about to happen to Scanters. And it's a very, very heavy piece. Rise of the Downfall. If you go into a movie theater or you go out of the theater, this is the effect. This is the effect you hear. I figured out how to blend these very deep tones with orchestral and create this very cool like opener closer track called Rise of the Downfall. Definitely worth checking out. Rock This Way. This had to be on the early batch, as we can see by the date, 2008. It was way back in time, where I had supplied some tracks to see how the production music was made and things like that. And this was one of the first that got accepted. So I was very glad to get the ball rolling with Well Cooked Rock, which was a piece that I had made for a project that never got off the ground called Goth Inspired. Because when I first moved to San Francisco, I learned to get in tune with the grunge music scene. So I was listening to bands like Soundgarden and Korn and others like that. And I was already a fan somewhat of like Linkin Park, so I was always a fan of the guitar, heavy metal, all this kind of stuff. So anyways, that's the APMMusic discography for Charles Desser, also known as CMDess.